Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Chazdei Hashem.
We'll turn out the form draft then. There's any change?
There's no
You have
10 o'clock.
kindness?
There's no 10 o'clock davening on Shabbos Agradol.
No.
8:30, right? Or even earlier. Probably 7:30, right?
Yep. You got it.
Or at maximum. At maximum.
Okay. We have Tanya's. Daf Tedek test.
Page 196.
Page 196. Thank you very much.
Amen.
You know, when Siddim, one of the contentious points between the Siddim and Misnagdim was that Siddim came along and said that Tshuvah, every Yid is the Tshuvah, Tzaddik is the Tshuvah. Misnagdim said that's not nice. It's a tashbol of the covet of Tamid Chachamim. They don't go around the saying Tamid Chachamim have to do Tshuvah. The Baal Aveda have to do Tshuvah. Okay, so steht doch, Mashiach is also Lasov Tzedekayah B'tiyufta. Okay, but that was a very contentious point. That Siddim came along and they said that tshuva is for tzaddikim too.
Although it's a mitzvah in the Torah, so you would think simple shot. Everyone has to do that mitzvah.
So there's a story that the Welt sagt. They say the name of the Ibn Ezra, that the Ibn Ezra used to travel a lot, and he disguised himself. So he came to a city, and someone saw him in shul, didn't know who he is. Ayid invited him to his house, gave him to eat, to drink, gave him a room, a bed, place to sleep, and he stayed there for a few days. In the meantime, someone recognized who he is, and everyone in the city came to be makabel upon him to the Ibn Ezra, who was known as a big Talmid Chochem, so on. And the people are coming to his house. He said, what's happening? He said, you don't know that this person's staying in your house. This is the famous Rebbe Avram Ibn Ezra. Person, I couldn't believe it. He went to the Avram and he apologized that he didn't give him the covet for the proper covet. I don't understand that. Said Ibn Ezra, you took good care of me. You gave me a place to sleep and you gave me food. He said, yeah, but I would have respected you. I would have given you. So the Ibn Ezra says, yeah, now I need to do tshuva. I did all the mitzvahs I did, but if I only realized who I'm serving, the Melech Malcham Lochem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I would have done everything so differently. If I only knew who it is that I'm working for. So that's the Welt Amaisa. So there's a word I forget from which Siddim from a Rebbe that they would say that the Avedis we do by the Rebbe machap for the mitzvahs we do at home.
That's simple.
Yeah. The Mordechai, you came perfect timing. Pedic test, it's on page 196 of Emes. It's in the other side, on page Sadik test, second line. Okay. We spoke about Tshuva Tato, Tshuva Ilo, the difference of Tshuva Tato, Tshuva Ilo. And then we went to Pedic test to explain the Oimek of Dinyan of Tshuva law, how that's an unbelievable dveikus for the Eibishter in a person, that the Yid becomes unbelievable dveikus to the Eibishter. The Tshuva Torah, the main thing is Tshuva Torah, a person goes back to his dveikus to the Eibishter before the Chet. Tshuva law is not before the Chet. Terem Shenofcha, that the person is connected to the Eibishter in the same intensity that the neshama was connected to Eibishter before the neshama came into this world. The Welt sagt the Meise that there was the Sorov of Strelitz called the Chassidim. They should go see the avodah of the Heilige Ruzhin. So a group of Chassidim came to Ruzhin, and they came there in the morning. So, hanging on Beis Medrash, the daven Shachris. In the meantime, the Ruzhin passes by the Beis Medrash, and he hears there's a group of people, Mishrait, Koilus Abrokim, they're davening, their derech was to daven very loud. So he asked, what's going on? They said there was a group of Siddim, they came from Strelitsk, and they wanted to see you. Okay, after davening, when they came to see the Ruzhin at Tzaddik, so he asked, why did you come? They said, we came to learn from you. He said, if you want to learn from me, you have to go my ways. I said, I heard you davening this morning, but Koilus Abrokim. The Pasuk says, Encha b'seisei roham. That the roham that has to be b'seisei, has to be quiet. He said, let me explain. There's two types of relationship. There is a relationship of a brother and a sister. They're good friends. And there is a relationship of a husband and a wife, also very good friends. What's the difference? The relationship of a brother and a sister, but there's nothing to hide. But the relationship is not so deep. But the relationship of a husband and a wife is very deep. But that's why there's midas avusha. It's not. You don't see the yichud, the dveikus in the street. It's bitsnius. So, what kind of relationship do you want to have with the Eibishter? Like a brother to a sister? So then you could scream b'koyle koilis. But if your relationship with the Eibishter is b'dveikus niflo, b'yichud neshikun, so that's done b'seiseron. That's done quietly. That's like a relationship of a husband and a wife. Anyway, back to the story of the Pedic test was the story of the Tshuva law, the Gewalt of Tshuva law. Now we're going back to something the Alter Rebbe said earlier. The Alter Rebbe said that the Reishis Chochma said that the Pagama Bris, the Tshuva doesn't help. The Pshat is Tshuva Torah doesn't help, but Tshuva law does help. So the Alter Rebbe is going back to that Nekuda. It's a beautiful word. They say from the Tzaddik Reb David of Tolna, they came to a place, and so the Talmid Chacham went to greet him, and they said they'd like to hear Shtikl Torah. So he said, "You want to hear Shtikl Torah? The Talmid Chacham, you probably want to hear Psat. So what could David say? Filpul. He said, "No." The Gemara says, "Oinoa ad shtus." Simple pshat is that that's a din that when there's commerce, there's a moicher and a koine, seller and a buyer. So if the mistake was less than a shtus, we say there's mechila, more than a shtus, the deal is off. But if it's a shtus, then we say it's big enough of a deal. It's not just moichel. Then I'm moichel the money. You have to give back the whatever. If it's a mistake, you have to give back the money. So he said that in a lot of things that a person could fool themselves. And then a person says that I'm doing the right thing in life, and I'm a tzaddik. Everything I do is good. Or a person could fool himself. I'm a very good person. I'm used to have here a guy, good man. I'm a good man. I'm a very good man. So, I'm fooling myself, but who's going to disprove it? Achtus, that only goes to Midah Shishis. Which is a Midah Shishis? Chesed, Gevura Tiferes. Netzach, which is the next one? Zoid. When it comes to Yesod, you can't fool yourself. A person in Nichshel, Zered Batola, you can't say good man. You can't. This is something which is a very, it's yes or no. So how does a person deal with the Pagama Bris? Here you can't fool yourself. Say I'm a tzaddik. The Gemara says Ein Oina Lekarkos. Again, the Foshib Pshat is that when you do business in Karkos, real estate is something which can be very valuable. So even though me and you appraise that this karka is worth $1 million, but it's a normal thing in this world that a person that this guy loves, and real estate is location, 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 right? He wants to dafke live right next to the new base Knesset, a base Medish, a base Menachem Legal. So he buys the next property for double the price. Okay. So ain't in all the karkos. So that's the Poshib shot. What the David said that if a person is nafshik off a he makes himself like karka. So then there's no Ainoah. Then that takes away the Ainoah. So that helps them do tshuva on the union of Achtus. Okay, perfect timing. You hear? It daf tzadik tes, 3 lines from the top. Okay. Zogt Alter Rebbe, when it comes to the Pagama Bris, in anything which is, if a person chas v'sholom was nichshol in sleeping in a marriage, which whatever, which is also a goyish woman chas v'sholom, whatever it is, even if it's something which is the isur of that of being with that woman is the rabbanon, still hamurim divrei sefer that on the level of pagam divrei sefer are more chamur. So therefore, poigam b'moyach, the pagam is in the moyach. Why? Because the Rambam says the Rebbe is mitzayim here too. The Rambam in Hilchas Deis Tav Perik Dalud, that the Rambam says that the seed comes from the brain, and that's why the big doctor said that out of 1,000 people, 1 man dies from old age, and the other 9,999 they die from roiv be'ilas. That's what the Rambam says. The Rambam says that's the chayes of the person, the malid einov. So therefore, if a person wants to live a long life and a healthy life, he shouldn't waste the seed. That's what the Rambam says. We see that this is something which is to do with the moyach of the person. So mida connected mida. So therefore, also the tshuva has to be something as a shaykh on the moyach. Therefore, the tshuva of the gamma pieces in a person learns Torah, because the Rai says b'chokhma nafka. So Torah has a shaykh with chokhma. If you're learning Torah, this is the tshuva of the pagam which is in the moyach, because Torah is a shaykh to the moyach, and this pagam of bias asuris shech vazer l'atol is a shaykh to the moyach. Zeh shekosav the Tana Dveilio. That is brought in Tana Dveilio. Adam avar aveda v'neschayv misel amokim yasav v'yichid. The person didn't aveda, and now he's chayiv to be to chas v'sholom, not live. So what should he do in order to live? Pashtus, the pshat in Tana Dveilio is, at least the way the Alter Rebbe is learning Tana Dveilio. What's the question? We're talking about a certain chait which is an egregious chait. Not the pshat that every chait is chayiv mitzvah and that's not true. So there is a way of learning it. He meant no. It's not he meant. It's not true. It's not true that every aved is chayiv mitzvah. So what the Alter Rebbe do, obviously from the context, you see the Alter Rebbe is learning that Mayasa, that he did such an Aveda, which is so egregious, which is his Chayiv Misalamokim. So Mayasa veYichya, when he did such an Aveda, so you'd read it like this: Odam over Aveda. If it's such an Aveda that's Neschayiv Misalamokim Mayasa veYichya, what should he do to live? So the answer is Im Hoya Rogel Ikra Daf Echad Ikra Beis Dafim. If you used to learn only one daf, you should learn two dafim. Lishnas Perek Echad, Lishnas Beis Perokim. So first, so in a few nekudas you see from the Torah of Eliyahu, we see a raya to what we said, that there's a sin which is egregious, which has to do with the moyach, which is something very, that's a serious pagam, a very serious pagam. Bias asuris is considered something which is, the Rambam says, the chayma bias asuris are unbelievable. So we see that that there is a way to do tshuva for it, and what is it? Through limud the Torah, because he's going to learn now double of what he usually learned. The Alter Rebbe explains what's up shad. Just like a person had a rope and you cut the rope, how do you put the rope together again? What are you going to put glue? And the glue is not going to hold. So ask all the sailors. The sailors learn how to make knots, right? The Ikkeres here is how to make a knot. Just like a rope that got cut. What do you do? That you could make again a knot. That wherever you make the knot, you make a double knot. So therefore, it's the same thing with the rope that ties a yid to the Eibishter. In order, there was a rope that ties the neshama to the Eibishter. Now, Rahman al got cut. What do you do now? You take the two sides of the rope. You don't glue it like this. You take the two sides of the rope and you tie it. And that's the pshat, that if you used to learn one daf, two dafim. You used to learn one pedic, you learn two dafim. The Rebbe's father says that what's the pshat? Why chofel chupul? He says because he says what is a daf and two dafim? Think about it. In the days of Torah Eliyahu, they didn't yet learn daf hayom. Telling you, Behin said, "Man, the chlush gelernt daf hayom." Du warst Turkish. Oh. He was the Rabbi Shapiro was the radio. And it was just about the time of Rabbi Yehuda Anossi. So it was the time of the Mishnah, not the time of the Talmud. So there wasn't. So the Rebbe's father says Daf is Torah Shebeksav and Pedic is Torah Shebal Peh. Because in the Torah Shebeksav you had Dapim. So there is a Taka Parshios, there's also Parshios. But just like today, we say a parsha, we don't mean we mean parshas Truma Tetzava. But usually in the Torah, parshas means psuchas Truma, right? But there was a way of looking, but they didn't have that time. Prokim, Pedic Aleph, Pedic Beis, Pedic Gimel. They didn't have Prokim in Torah Shebeksav. Because it's a chadosh. Agam Lopoil today Yisrael uses it. They don't consider it a foreign thing. But was a normal thing for a person to say that I'm going to learn one daf. I'm going to learn two dafim. Today I learned three dafim because they didn't have prokim. And parshiyas, there's so many parshiyas. So it was a normal thing to say daf, two dafim, and Torah Shebeksav. It could also be in those times, just like today. We have prokim, and every chumash has the same prokim. So could be also that most seifrim wrote the same, like the Megillah. A lot of Megillahs are with a melech on the top. So it ends up that a lot of the Megillahs, the daf has first, second, third, fourth. The daf has the same amount of words. So that's a shot that if you learned one daf, you learned two daf, and we're one pet on two prokim, and then he says, what's a shot confident that Torah Shebeksav, he'll learn instead of one daf, two dafim, and Torah Shebeksav instead of one pedic, two pedic. So it's like four knots. Keneged tshuva taton, tshuva yilo.
Why does say it's look for it to read, not long to learn.
because the emesis and by Torah is Kriya Torah, by Torah Shabbat we usually call it Kriya, and Torah Shabbat is Mishnah, right? Because in Torah Shabbat the main thing is to say the words, and even if you don't understand, you'll consider learning. And Torah Shabbat the ikar is to understand. So that's why that's called Kriya and that's called Mishnah. Okay.
I just saw on this piece, the Muslim, it's a beautiful shlichus b'shem b'yado, the Nachman, about this whole thing with, it says, Kama Bris, that Zoya, that says that Tshuva doesn't help, and not, so the Baal Tanya learns it's Tshuva Tatar, not Tshuva Ilah, because he has a different take on it. He says, like if a Tshuva help for outs, that's part of your Tshuva. You have to hear this Maimach Zoya to tell you that tshuva helfnish, and that manir, that hisrachis is part of your chelik tshuva, like l'chachil Rebbe, so to speak. Im kol zechel tshuvaton, and setivade help.
Okay, very nice. But the emes is, according to the Rebbe's biur, based on his father, the olam lenet neshrichtik, what the Alter Rebbe said. The emes that the Alter Rebbe didn't mean that only Tshuva law helps, and that's what he says. That is what his father's saying is a biur in what the Alter Rebbe is saying, not just Hashem Pshat. Kafel and Chupel means four knots. So the Rebbe says like this: L'choyde demastak apela. How could you say that person for the Gamma Bris has to do Tshuva law, and you're saying Tshuva Tato doesn't work, which is that's the Posh Pshat that the Reishis Chochma said. But Oibazoi, we're saying Tshuva Tato means that a person goes back to Mekoydem Achay. Tshuva law is a tvekas niflo in the Eibishter. So if you're telling me a person, Rahman al did a terrible chay, and he did so, you're saying that he's cut off from the Eibishter, and he jumped straight into Tshuva law. How does a person go into a tvekas niflo that he's connected to the Eibishter, the way the Neshama is before it came down to this world? The way the Alter Rebbe said, a child, before it was Tisha Yarche Leida, that's Mamish Mechuber in the Moyach of the father, and you're telling me the person is cut off from the Eibishter because of a terrible Aveda, and now all of a sudden he's connected to Tshuva law. It's funny. So the Rebbe says that's a pshat. That's a pshat attack of the union of kesher. The din is in Hilchah Shabbos that if a person does one thing, so that's nothing. Then he does a second knot, so now that's a kesher. So the pshat is now it's a kesher, yeah. But if you did the second one alone, wouldn't be a kesher. The second makes it the first. Now is a kesher. So the pshat is like this. The pshat is that a person versteht that you have to do tshuva tatov of gamma bris. But the pshat is like this. In general, we said b'chlal that what's the pshat that we say that tshuva law is tshuva shleima. L'choida, tshuva tato is good enough. Tshuva tato means that the Alter Rebbe says that tshuva tato means not only he stands up, he says, no, I'm not going to do the sin again. Why? Because if a person stands up, so I'm not going to do the sin again, but 15 minutes later, that the nisan is very big, and chas v'sholom will be nichshel. We're trying to get down to the source. Why is it that he got nichshel to be in the first place? Because his Kabbalah soil is not so strong. So in order to be be'emes of b'leiv shalom, emes takad Alter Rebbe says, real tshuva is only to say, I'm a Kabbalah al malchus shamayim, labal yashiv l'kislam. But in order to make that this should be strong, therefore there is the inyan that we spoke about, Barichas and Perek Zayin, that there is an exercise that a person has to have rachmonis on his neshama, to have a leiv nishbor, in order for it to work. A person, so it's there was a mashpia here in Sana 70 in the early years. It was a very choshev Shmuel Levit. He said that he asked once the Frierdiker Rebbe that how come he's learning in Yonam Amokim said this, and he doesn't feel that he's becoming a nefesh mezucheches. So the Frierdiker Rebbe said that he says years ago we lived in Lubavitch. Once I took I needed to go somewhere quick, so I jumped on a wagon, and the Balagola was tried to get the wagon to go, and the horses wouldn't move. So another Balagola walked by and sneered at him. Apparently, he didn't know the job, and he said, "Medaf kennen Einstein in the Pferd. I've nicht the Minishkin Balagola. You have to know how to tie the horse as well. If you don't know how to tie the horses, then you're not in the business. So basically, you have to know how to get that the Zinyonim Amukim should toil on you. Okay. So back to the Pedig Zion.
How do you answer the question?
How did he answer? Medaf Einspannen. He didn't explain the full thing. He said you have to Einspannen on the Fed. You got to figure out how to Einspannen on the Fed. Yeah. So in Pedig Zion, he spoke about Einspannen on the Fed. Really, he spoke about there was two very important exercises. One is to have Rachmanas on the Neshama, and the other one is Leiv Nishbor. So how does that L'chayda Tshuva is that I'm going to have Kabbalah soil, accepting the Yom Deibishter, but that's the of the first knot and the second knot. First, I make a knot. I say that's it. I'm connected to the Eibishter, but that knot could get undone so easily when the Nisayan comes back. So a person makes a second knot, which makes it the first knot should stand. That not only I said I'm going to accept the oil of the Eibishter. It's like the story I said before with Ibn Ezer. I realize now that every minute is so precious. And I realized that there's a unbelievable rachmanas on my neshama. I have a leiv nishbur. That makes that this hachlota that I made to have Kabbalah Sal Malchus Shemayim should stand strong. That's the of a kesher shel kayoma. Like a Shabbos, the second kesher makes it the first kesher is a kesher because otherwise it would fall apart. It's not a kesher. So just like we said that in Tshuva Tatorah, the same thing is the relationship of Tshuva Elot to Tshuva Tatorah. That Tshuva law makes that a person is so connected that it's not shaykh, there would even be a salkadaita, that it shouldn't be a Kabbalah al Malchus Shemayim, because he's so connected to the Eibishter with a dveikus nefloa. How could it be that that there should even be a salkadaita that the heart? So Tshuva Tatorah a lot to do with the heart. We said Tshuva Tatorah with the heart, Tshuva law with the brain. That he's so deeply connected to the Eibishter that is not shaykh. So that's the pshat of the fourth shonim. There's Tshuva Tatorah, there is a double knot, in Tshuva Elot, there's a double knot. So therefore, the pshat is by every Aveda. The Alter Rebbe didn't mean to say that the Afaket, the Alter Rebbe is saying it a little differently in the Reish Chochmah. Not the way it seems at Pashtus. Alter Rebbe is now explaining what the Reish Chochmah said. That Taka Tshuva Tatorah doesn't work, and Tshuva Elot is the only thing that works. Kilo, if a person is going to be over in these Averis Chamurim, it's an easy thing. He's going to jump in and learn a 2 daf Gemara, Machai. The answer is no. We're talking about that he does tshuva. Elamai, in order for this to be strong, because over here, in most Avedas, the Pagam is in the heart. That instead of being an Eved Hashem, instead of being devoted to the Eibishter, he's Eved to there's the Kuginker, there's the Melech Zokan Tzil, and instead of being a servant to the Eibush, he's a servant to his Yetzirah. So therefore, Tshuva Tatorah is sufficient. Alamai Tshuva law is such a strong knot that will make sure that the Tshuva Tatorah will never get undone. But here, because the Aveda to begin with really has to do with the Moyach, so therefore, over there, it's icing. It's Tshuva Shleima. It's Shleimus that Tshuva is now that he did the double knot and Tshuva Tatorah, he'll do Tshuva law that'll make that the 4 knots together, the rope will never get undone. But when it comes to the Gamma Bris or any Aroyas, so then, Be'emes, it's not Stam Tshuva Shleima. This is Tshuva Elo is a chelik of the Tshuva. Verstetzach has to be Tshuva Tatorah, and that the Rebbe is saying that the Kavanah of the Alter Rebbe is fakir to make it easier, that he should understand that also for Aroyas and also for Gamma Bris, that Tshuva Tatorah does help. Elamai, the pshat is that by regular Aveda it's only Tshuva Shleima to have this dveikus nifla. But over here, it's a chelik of the thing because it's charaya that if he was able to fall through such a thing, that something is missing in the moyach, and the moyach is shaykh the neshama. So therefore, it's be'emes a chelik of the tshuva. But verstetzach, the tshuva tatorah helps for pegama bris, and that's what the Alter Rebbe is trying to say. it does help to do tshuva tata, not the way the push pshat that we think that the Alter Rebbe is saying that takazoid, that the only thing that helps is tshuva ilah. Even though you don't see it so much in the words, that's the way the Rebbe is learning. Right. That's the way the Rebbe is learning it. Talking about the Dveikus in Lubavitch in Crown Heights, the main yeshiva, all the Torah, the Rosh Yeshiva until who passed away in COVID. It was Rabbi Yisrael Friedman. So Rabbi Yisrael Friedman once a Fabrengen said that when they were able to get out of Russia, most Lubavitch Chassidim were in a DP camp in Germany, and they started right away the yeshiva. And he said he was a young Talmud, and he remembered the Yom Kippur. So he remembered that the Mashpia of Nissen was standing on the side, and he was in an Welt, he was saying Tehillim, whatever he was doing, he was in an Welt. After Yom Kippur, he was officially the Mashpia in the yeshiva. So he called over a young Talmud, Kilo, like very zugegangen davenen for the Kol Nidre, and he asked him who daven Musaf. He asked him like Masech Levituma, he just wants to know. He said he realized that this was a person, the whole Yom Kippur, he had no idea who's davening for the Ummah, what's going on. He was such a dveikus nifla. He had no idea who walked over to the Ummah. Where is given the Baal Tfil? And Elamai, he was Mashpia, and he needed to know. He kept a cheshbon. What's going on? So after Yom Kippur, he realized he had no idea who where's gegangen zum Ummah, where's not gegangen zum Ummah. So he called over a young Talmud that might not realize from the questions, so to find out. So that's the dveikus. So the Shuvi law is an unbelievable dveikus. So regular Aveda, we have the 4 knots is unbelievable. But for these things, it's not stam unbelievable, but it's necessary. If a person was literal, it's necessary to experience this dveikus nifla, because this Pagam has a shaykh also to the Moyar. Let's continue the Pedic. This is what the Pasuk says. We're saying about I just want to finish off the biur. So he says, but this is the biur of why the Rebbe's father learned a little different. Poshtab Shat, you would think, in the Tonat Ve'elio is he's saying if you're a person that usually learns Torah Shebeksav, instead of learn 1 daf, and 2 daf. If you're usually a person that learns Mishnayos, instead of learn 1 period, learn 2 perakim. Said the way my father learned it is he was saying that he does to learn Torah Shebeksav and Torah Shebal Peh, and everything has to be double now. Everything has to be double right now. Okay, let's continue. And this is what the pasuk says: "Mechesed ve'emes yechuper avoin ve'ein emes ela Torah." It says, the pasuk says, the mechesed ve'emes yechuper avoin, that even if a korban won't help, but chesed ve'emes will help. Ve'ein emes ela Torah v'oven beiseili bezevach mincho deina meskaper v'meskaper b'Torah gmilas chasadim. Kedisa b'sefer kama de Rosh Hashanah. What does the Gemara say? The Gemara brings the story of the Bnei Eli. What's the story of Bnei Eli? Why were they punished?
They're Kohen.
Yeah, what was the story of the Bnei Eli?
I remember.
So in Shmuel, it said,
They made the women wait who were.
So the Gemara says pshat, but the pasuk says that they slept with the women. So the Gemara says that Chas Shom to think that that's what they did. That it was because they thought they're doing something good. When the women came to bring a korban, like a korban yoldis, so they didn't let them just come to Beis Hamikdash and just bring a korban and go back home. They said their tone, Lina, but that wasn't really apidin. They were not mechuyev to sleep overnight in the city of the Beis Hamikdash, which was then in Shiloh. So because if they had gone home, they would be able to be with their husbands, and were able to have a baby, and therefore they held back more babies being born by Klal Yisrael. It's a terrible sin. That's what the Gemara says. The Poshta Pshat, in Pshuta Shal Mikra, when you learn Pshuta Shal Mikra, they had a terrible sin. It's Inyan of Aroyos. And the Pasuk says that the Eibishter Min Shvua that even if the Bnei Eli will bring Zevach and Mincha, they'll still, that's not going to help, and they're going to be punished. The Gemara
How
says,
many boys seems to?
yeah, Chofni and Pinchas. But they were cursed for all generations. The Gemara says, for example, Toner Rabbanim Mishpachas Achas Hoysa B'Yerushalayim Shahoya Shahoya Banei Meisim Bnei Shmoina Asa Shana. They would die very young. Rabbi Yochanan Mazakai. Rabbi Yochanan Mazakai was the last generation of the Beis Hamikdash, and Rabbi Yochanan Mazakai was transferred the whole Merkaz HaTorah from Yerushalayim, which was the Rachmana litzlan destroyed, and he brought it to Yavne. So Amar Lahem, Rabbi Yochanan Mazakai said, Shem Mishpachas Eliyatim, the Tzib Kol Marbis Beischa Yamusa Anoshim, L'chu v'isku b'Torah v'chiyu, Holcha v'osku b'Torah v'choyu, v'koyu nois Mishpachas Rabbi Yochanan al Shmoy. So the Gemara said, what's another story? The Gemara says, Rabba v'abayim at the base Eli ko'osu. Rabba d'osek b'Torah choya arboin shnin, Abai d'osek b'Torah milas chasad choya shitin shnin. So what we see over here, what the Alter Rebbe is trying to say, is that even aroyas, which are considered such a big pagam, and l'choyd, and the simple pshat, that Eibishter was nishba, the Bnei Eli, because it did such a terrible thing of aroyas, that they're going to be punished for all generation, and a zevach and mincha is not going to help, but still, Torah Gemilas Chasadim is going to help. So we see that there is kilo ein lecha davar oim ibn tshuva. That's the bottom line that Alter Rebbe is trying to say.
They slept with Eshet Ish? No.
That's the simple pshat. Again, and the Gemara says the Chas v'Shalom to say that Chafte and Pinchas because they did such a thing that they made the women wait is mala l'bakosov, and but what's the difference? We have to read Pshuta Shemika. In other words, not Chas v'Shalom different than the Gemara. And saying Lagabi how egregious the sin was. So we have to read the pasuk, and we have to say that was that whatever they did was a double chamor b'yos. It was a terrible thing, and the Eibishter said that there'll be a shvur that any mincha they're going to bring, any zevach they're going to bring is not going to help. Yet we see that the Gemara says that Rabbi Yochanan Mazakai came with an eitzah. Zevach and mincha is not going to help, and Abaye v'Rabba had an eitzah. Zevach and mincha is not going to help, but Torah is going to help. So we see that even the most egregious sin, there is an eitzah. There's always an eitzah. There's always an eitzah. There's no such a thing. Ein lecha davar oim ibn tshuva. That's really the point of Iggeres HaTashuvah. The whole point of Iggeres HaTashuvah is that the Alter Rebbe says that tshuva is easy. That there is chas v'shalom to say that the Alter Rebbe starts off. He wants to say that the tshuva is accessible. Tshuva.
In what sense?
Huh?
It's attainable.
No, it doesn't.
It's easy. I don't know.
It's not easy.
In what sense is it easy? Even sure to tell us a whole.
So, but the emes is when you think about the double knot. Not easy, excessive. It's a wrong word to say easy. The Alter Rebbe is trying to say that that you get there. So in a way, the Alter Rebbe starts off. We keep on going back to this Nakud. The Alter Rebbe starts off saying, "Oh, well, sure, tshuva is nothing. All you got to do is say, Kabbalah Soy, I'm accepting the yoke of the Eibishter. Because of till now, I threw away the yoke of the Eibishter and I allowed myself to be fooled by the Yetzer Hara. No, I'm accepting the yoke of the Eibishter. And this doesn't change throughout the entire Faket. The way that Rebbe is saying is that even for the most egregious sin, like these people, which had, according to the Pashup Shat and the Pasuk, the Bnei Eli did the worst sin in the world. So even if a person is over on the worst sins, there's a way to do tshuva. And that's the union of the double knot. Alter Rebbe is saying, keeps on saying the same word. That a person accepts the yoke of the Eibishter. Elamai, that knot could get undone in 10 seconds. So therefore, there's the knot, which is a double knot, and the 4 knots. In the Tshuva Tator, there's a double knot, and in the Tshuva Yilod, there's a double knot. The higher knot makes it the lower knot should last forever. So just like in Tshuva Tator, when a person exercises the Rachmanas on his neshama, he exercises the Leiv Nishbor, that makes that the Kabbalah soil should stick, should last for a long time. When a person later does the double knot of Teshuvah law, that makes that the Teshuvah Tator should last even longer. That's something which will last and last for a very long time because he came to unbelievable dveikus in the Eibishter. There's a story that Friedrich Rebbe once said that his father told him that when he was young, his father told him a certain Maimah to learn straight 27 times. He was learning it for 48 hours. Come out, I stopped. That is stopped for Shachas Mochamayda. Come over. But he was told to learn 27 times a Maimah. The 27th time, he was so tired. It was the third day. So he asked someone to come learn with him because he was scared that he's not going to be able to. And he was finally he was able to finish the 27th time, and he took a rest. He lay down to sleep. And he said, after that, he understood why he needed to learn it 27 times straight. He learned it only 26, because he learned it in one shot 27 times. He didn't say which Maimah it was. It was something that was very important that Rebbe Marash wanted his son to learn this thing 27 times straight. He said, it was nechkek benafshe. So
Why?
Why
27. What happened?
Why
Did he
27?
understand
I don't know.
27?
I don't know.
If he told him
28 is
26, he
call.
would have felt the 26 would.
I guess because that's what it means to be a Rebbe. I guess his father knew the nefesh of his son, and knew the nefesh of his chassid, knew that this maimer has to be chokuk benafshe, he has to get carved into him, and that it would take 27 times straight to do it.
It's good they didn't tell him 100
You
times.
see, you said it, Pshat.
Rabbi,
Is
it's good
it?
they didn't tell him 100 times. אפילו שנפליק כל 100 פעמים,
Right.
אינו דומה ל101.
Exactly. Okay, so l'chaim. It's really we got
Short side.
tonight is Moshe Rabbeinu's Yortzeit, exactly.
זין אדם.
And so and Esther, yeah.
That's just your side today.
What did they say in the party show?
Oh, yeah?
Alright.
So,
Before he came.
okay, so l'chaim, and there's a double l'chaim. So the emphasis is that the Eibishter gives that they should, just like Moshe Rabbeinu helped Eden do tshuva, which is a shaykhus with last week's parsha, and also next week's parsha, which Hashgacha Prata would be the parsha connected to Purim. So Moshe Rabbeinu helped. So just like Moshe Rabbeinu's girl Rishon, his girl Ashman, that the Eibishter makes that there should be there should be tzaddikim that help us hold on our hand and help us do tshuva. If shall helfen, the schus of tshuva, we should have the geula and the geula shleima bevis Mashiach tzedkeinu. So people in Israel always, when you go to Israel, people are asking me, "Nu, when are you going to make Aliyah? When are you going to make Aliyah?"
What do you
Right?
tell them?
At this time, I said, "In Rosh Mamshala lo yeh Bibi Netanyahu, yeh Mashiach ben David,
Yeah.
miyad ani magia po."
It's for everybody. That's not you specifically.
No, I said, but this time, I would never
many
say,
people
you know, in
know?
the shuk, you see,
How
a
many?
lot of people, but
Yeah.
every person laughed. In other words, in the past, if I would have said, I wouldn't say such things. I know people just get agitated for it. But this time, everyone is laughing. There was not one exception of someone that sneered about it. Everyone was like,
The only one who would be concerned is Bibi. If he heard that
I
response.
think he was also be happy.
Did you see Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson?
Fair enough.
Article?
So?
No, an article.
Oh, no.
I saw
About what?
just about how Bibi could have, and should do more. It looked like it was.
Maybe we should send it to
Looked like it
BP.
was an image, like of the columns, like the article that I saw. It looked like it was an image, like it was posted or published.
Well, that
It was in Hebrew.
Another 60
Okay.
ceasefire things and
For-
I came late. Time for my grandson.
Oh, Mazel Tov.
What's this?
My grandson is Lechaim.
Oh,
Chaim.
they live
All
far.
Ateret Torah was there.
Yeah.
They
I
live
live like 23rd M&M.
Shkoyach, everyone that's joining us.
23.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
I was also told to
Yeah.
I used to be 23.